Good evening, everybody. How's it going? It's me, Comic Crack. It's Sunday, and doing the usual short hangout. I think again this week. Um, read a number of things, but some of it just didn't kind of hit its mark even close. So I'm not going to bother talking too much about those. I read a whole bunch of Cull. There's no point in talking much more about Cull than I already have at this point. So we'll just kind of jump right into it. One of the things that I've been watching lately, so um, I think we mentioned it this afternoon. Damien and I were doing a hangout. I don't think he had a channel yet when I was doing this last week. So Colin Blanchette has a channel going along now. He's got 2 videos out. Highly recommended to watch that. Tim Morant is back, who's kind of a longtime YouTuber. So he posted a video recently, a few days ago, I think. So, and then he showed up in Howler Mouse's chat this morning. Hey, Ragamuffin, how are you? So he's back doing videos, which is fantastic. I kind of discovered this gaming channel, this guy called Zilla Blitz. And I watched his series on this game called The Hunters, which is submarine like U-boat hunting during World War II. Yeah, 1942, 1943. Really, really fantastic series of videos. I've got a submarine type of war game that I pulled out tonight to kind of have a reread of the instructions and the rules and stuff. It's called a Wolf Pack, so I'm hoping to get that on the table tomorrow and try that out again. So if you're into wargaming or anything, so Zilla Blitz, Zilla, and then Blitz, and it's his videos on a game called The Hunters. Apparently there's 2 games, The Hunters, and then the follow-up that they did called The Hunted. So yeah, recommended if you're into kind of the war games and stuff. So we'll just jump into the stuff that I read. We'll start with, I don't know, maybe we'll start with this one. So one of the things I was just sitting reading more of this, the Apex Treasury of Underground Comics. So one of the things I had mentioned this afternoon when Damien and I were talking, that I thought that there was a number of printings of this. But there's only actually 2 printings of this one that are both priced at $4.95. And then, according to, I did a check in the good old Fogel price guide. They have, yeah, so two printings of that one from 1974, both soft cover. And then in 1981, there was a Apex Treasury of Underground Comics and the Best of Bijou Funnies. So it was like a flip book. So that one looks to be like, again, price guide be damned. A price guide is a price guide is a price guide. Take it or leave it. That one from 1981, it'll have a $9.95 price tag on the front of it. And that one is the more affordable one, even in like a high grade. He's got it listed at like $20. So for these first printings, they run from anywhere from like $10 to $50. Depending on the grade. I definitely know I didn't pay no $50 for it. So I don't play a lot of them, Ragamuffin. I kind of, I think we've talked about it before, kind of go through modes of, yes, definitely planning an invasion. Absolutely. I go through modes of kind of getting really deep into stuff. So I'll kind of float between some gaming, especially war gaming, because I find I do have to be in a particular mindset for it to absorb all those damn rules and everything. So it just feels like I'm kind of in that mode again these days. So I'm kind of revisiting some of my games and just giving them a try. Loading the cannon. Hello. You got the flip book version. Awesome. I wouldn't mind. I don't think I've ever seen that one, but it would be good to see that Best of Bijou Funnies. So I was reading the Justin Green stuff, and this afternoon I had said that it seems like so far it was filled with kind of, highlights from each of the artists' work. And then I read the Justin Green stuff, and it's not the greatest. The Justin Green stuff that I have is phenomenal. The stuff that they include in here isn't all that great. One of the things that it looks like they've included a number of things from. We were talking about Art Spiegelman's Mouse from 1972. It's a short story. That one first appeared in. There's one issue of a Crumb book called Funny Animals. There's the cover there. I know it's not really showing up too well, but that's the cover for Funny Animals. That's where it first appeared. The Justin Green that's in this Apex Treasury, it sounds like that came from Funny Animals as well. The mouse. I thought there was something else too. I can't seem to find it now. I think there's something. Oh yeah, the Trots and Bonnie. That's what it was. The Sherry Flanagan stuff that's in Apex Treasury also was from Funny Animals. So I would say it's still. I would still recommend it if you can find it, and if you want to get into some undergrounds. I think this is still a really good resource. Hey AFPC, how you doing, man? I think this is still a really good resource. So you get kind of some infamous Crumb stories. White Man Meets Bigfoot, for example. You get about, I don't know, 30 to 40 pages of Crumb. He's obviously the draw in a lot of these kind of anthologies. He's going to be the guy that is going to bring the viewers in. But honestly, so far, I think I've dug the Spiegelman stuff the most. I was talking to Damien this afternoon and saying that I hadn't read a lot of Spiegelman just on its own. I'd also misspoken. Mouse appeared in Raw. It didn't actually appear in Taboo, but it did appear in Raw magazine, and then it finally came out on its own. So it was just a really great piece to see this, because I've never seen this one. I've known that about its existence, but I've never read the piece. I don't have that Funny Animals Underground. But this was just a real treat to kind of see his first stab at telling this story, and just kind of the different style that he was using at the time for compared to what it turned into. And some of these other stories were really enjoyable too. This one pager, you're supposed to read at the tempo of a dripping faucet. So I thought that was an interesting way to kind of set a tempo in your mind for going. You're just in time, Lefty Blues. We just started. Dripping faucet to kind of run you through the piece itself. And then this one, Ace Hole Midget Detective, is really great. There's a lot of Picasso references in it. She comes out of the building and she feels like she's being shadowed and her image changes. There's commentary here on the last panel. A shot and a scream. My blood froze into popsicles. I turned the corner fast, like some clown turning the pages of a good funny book, which is exactly where it's placed on the page for you to turn the page. So seeing kind of how he does play with kind of comics itself. Yeah, it's pretty fun. I would like to read some more of his stuff. What else was there? Another strip back. Well, that was it. And then at the top of each one too, it's kind of great to have the little artist's interpretation of himself. There's the Gilbert Shelton. They give you some samples of, at the time of publication, some of the things, some of the comics that they had appeared in, and then just a brief one-page write-up for everybody except for Crumb. Crumb, there's a big write-up and there's an interview and everything, but everybody else gets kind of like a one-page, just brief description of who they are, where they've come from, what they're doing. What else were some highlights in here? Yeah, I'm disappointed that the Justin Green stuff was kind of dull, because he is fantastic. Willie Murphy, Flamed Out Funnies was his. Flamed Out Funnies was one of his books. I have it. I've read it once. I've never revisited it. So I'm kind of looking forward to revisiting some of these strips again just to see how they read now. I remember not being totally taken by them the first time through. But it's also great that they include, there's Bill Griffith in here as well, too. Some zippy. Here he is there. It's also interesting the selection of people that they've put in this collection just to get a bit of a range of what are considered kind of these underground comics. So you have, instead of just kind of the super offensive stuff that's kind of meant to kind of push the boundaries, you have some guys doing some different things. When they look at the Justin Green stuff at the beginning, they say that at 44,000 copies sold, Justin Green's autobiography, Binky Brown Meets the Holy Virgin, is somewhat of an underground bestseller. And I imagine at the time that this was published, that was true. I doubt that's true anymore. I think that things like the Freak Brothers have far surpassed 44,000. There's also your friend and mine, Spain Rodriguez. So that's pretty great to get some samplings of that as well too. So yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, especially for people who aren't familiar with undergrounds and want to kind of get a bit of a wide range, just a kind of sampling of some of the kind of more well-known artists. Obviously, this is the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more out there, and if you do kind of respond to it and you get into it deeper, um, there'll be a lot more. There's a lot more to discover. Let's see. I don't think Mouse impacted me as hard as it should have when I read it. I hear you on that. I remember reading it back in the day. Um, I don't even know if I honestly, I don't even know if I ever finished it, but I remember the impact that it made. Everybody was talking about it, and I can see it. I really need to revisit it. My son and I were talking about it. I don't know, about a month ago or so, and it feels like it's a book that I should pick up for us, and read it together, and pass it on to him too. The most recent Spiegelman I've read is the Street Cop collaboration with Robert Coover. Okay, I don't know that one. I'll have to check that out. Hello, Chaos and Comics. Saw the Apex printings. They are only around like 25 bucks. That's pretty good. Gaming channel. I'll write it in here in the comments. That's it there. Astral Hex Encounter is the name of the gaming channel. So if you want to check that out. And then in some of my kind of back catalog here on the Comic Crack channel, there's some gaming stuff too. But Astral Hex Encounter is where I've put most of the gaming stuff. Winter War, I think, is on there. There's probably like Mushroom Eaters, probably Cave Evil. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what's on there. But check that out. Whoops, wrong button there. So starting off with that one, maybe we'll jump into this one. This is one that was a recommendation, not a recommendation, but saw on Twitter. I think it was Colin Blanchette that had talked about it. This is Tunnels by Rutu Modan. And I apologize if I'm butchering that name. Drawn and Quarterly put this out. Um, I don't know what to think of it. I don't really know if I enjoyed it. I don't know. I didn't hate it. Um, I'm just not sure what I thought about it. The art was pretty great. It had its moments for sure, but I thought it was pretty interesting to kind of look through. So this kind of family of archaeologists, the father has kind of lost his mind a bit. He's kind of getting closer and closer to death. He's not communicative, not really sure if he recognizes his family, not really sure if he knows what's going on around him. And it talks about kind of the relationship that he had with his kids. So it's this brother and sister that are kind of at the center of it. She has a son herself, who's called Doctor. She calls him Doctor all the time. And her big thing was her dad took her to find on these archaeological expeditions, and she just kind of how that impacted her life, how that impacted her relationship with her brother. Her brother didn't really come along on these. Um, so she she kind of gets renewed interest in going to find the Ark of the Covenant, right? Yeah. Um, and she kind of gets a group together with her, and it just kind of opens up from there. There's a lot of kind of it enters into Palestinian territory under this big wall is where they have to kind of dig from uh, um, the Israeli side to the kind of Palestinian side, to kind of connect with the tunnel that they had started when she was young with her father. So there's opportunity for some politics, but there's a lot of kind of humor in this as well. It's not completely kind of serious and really digging into politics and things. It's interesting. Like like I said, there's some moments I enjoyed. It wasn't a difficult read. I did make it through, but I just wasn't. I don't know. I wasn't as taken by it as I thought I would be. Um, so yeah, I'm glad that I checked it out. But and I see you guys commenting. Let's see here. Loading the Canon. Tunnels is a lot more tongue-in-cheek than her earlier work. If you come across Exit Wounds, that might be more up your alley. And I'd heard that as well, too. And then AFPC is saying the same thing. Exit Wounds is the one that I read, which is good. I was never impressed by Mouse. It wasn't real symbolism. And then about the Spiegelman, it's a short novel. Spiegelman did illustrations. It's very small in its dimensions, though. Okay, cool. That's good to know. Hello, Scott Connor. How are you? About the size of a deck of cards. Okay, that is tiny. So yeah, I'm glad I give it a shot. Drawn and Quarterly is, the kind of part and parcel, side by side, just as important as Fantagraphics, on my side of the border, which is also nice as well. And it just feels like I need to pay more attention to stuff that they put out. It feels like as much as I've neglected Drawn and Quarterly over the years and kind of started dipping my toes back in, Drawn and Quarterly has something that I haven't really explored in many, many years. I did make it to see the storefront when I was in Montreal one year. This was, I don't know how many years ago at this point, 10 years ago, probably. But again, I wasn't as in tune with stuff then. I didn't pick anything up at the time. I was probably more hunting for records at that time than I was for comics. So I feel like I need to revisit their catalog and check out what else they've put out in the past 10, 15 plus years. What else do we got? So we'll talk about this one. So in the kind of continuing hunt for some magazines, I was searching for just go and watch the video this afternoon, and you'll see talking about the Bran Mac Morn story from the Savage Sword of Conan magazines. So when I was looking for these, one of the places I went to was Cover to Cover, and he's got a lot of fantastic dollar bins, not dollar bins, sorry, independent and like especially 80s, 90s indie bins underneath kind of the Marvel and DC stuff. So he's kind of one of my first stops when it comes to anything weird and independent from the 80s and 90s. So I had a couple of titles on my list. I kind of have a running list on my phone, and I add stuff when I'm watching videos or if I see something on Twitter. So I went to kind of dig through his bins for some stuff there too. No luck, unfortunately, for the few titles. But this is one that I pulled out of the bins. Excuse me. The Cosmic Book by Pat Boyette. There's Alex Toth in here. There's Fred Himes, and there's a Wally Wood in here as well too. And this is an absolute blast. So it's from Ace Comics, and it's just so much fun. Great cover design. That's what really got me. Damien was commenting on it, and I would agree with him too. This lettering here is just phenomenal all the way across. So Pat Boyette, being the guy who created the Peacemaker for Charlton Comics, and that the comedian, I guess, eventually was based on, if I'm getting that part of the history correct. He went on and directed some movies. He did some comics as well too. So this was such a fun book, a really, really nice find. I'm glad that I gave it a shot. One of those rare times when the cover is exactly what you're expecting from the inside as well too. So here's the Wally Wood 2-pager here, about a race coming to a planet and going down and getting poisoned by the women. And then 1986 from Pat Boyette, Tanago's Folly, which was a pretty fun story, actually pretty silly. So kind of along the lines of the old kind of House of Mystery, House of Secrets, Unexpected, all of that kind of thing, creepy, eerie, except they're more kind of sci-fi. And there's definitely more of a comedic slant to these things. This one is about this kind of, this everyday kind of loser who always thinks he's going to find a get-rich-quick scheme, and how that backfires on him in this story, which is pretty fun. And then the Alex Toth piece that I wasn't that crazy about. The design of it is pretty fantastic, but the story itself that ties it all together didn't do much for me. But I mean, just looking at those pages again, it's pretty fantastic stuff. And the one that kind of caught my attention the most was from Mike Himes, and it's called, actually, I don't know if it has a title, Fatal Evolution. And this one really kind of blew me away, caught my attention with the use of color and the line art over top of it. When I sat again this afternoon after our chat, and I just kind of looked at it again, and seeing those blocks of color in the background and then the line work just kind of drawn over top, it almost feels like these color sections were just blocked out first and then they were drawn over top, as opposed to kind of laying out the page and then putting in the color. Really gorgeous stuff. I don't know anything about this Fred Himes. Why do I keep blanking on this name? Mike Himes. I don't know why I keep calling him Fred, because there's Fred Himes later on, I think. So Mike Himes, I don't know much about him, but he's on the radar to check out, because this is just amazing. These pages are just ridiculously good. And then I'll just show the same panel that I showed this afternoon too. Actually, I'll just show you the whole strip. We'll just go through the whole thing. Reminds me of kind of like the spaghetti Western trailers from the 70s, where they would do kind of just these very bold colors and these kind of silhouetted shapes for their trailers. This is the panel here that really got me, though. I love the faces on there. Yeah, there we go. There it focuses there. I love the faces on them there. Really, really fantastic stuff. And that background is just phenomenal. Yeah, and wordless as well too. So really just the highlight for me of that book. And there was they talk in the center spread about a second issue. From when I looked, this was actually on the CLZ app. There was only the one issue listed on CLZ, so I don't know if anything ever did come. And here's Fred Himes doing a kind of takeoff on the character Torpedo that we've looked at before here. And he kind of gets transported from his world to a kind of alternate dimension and another world, and everything turns into color. He meets another human there from another time period. And there's somebody else that they discover during it as well too. And it's this kind of back and forth a little bit. He's kind of he's a hitman, and they hire him to take out the guy, this Brit who's in charge of them now, who's just getting him to run all these drills and fight other tribes that live beside him. So he accepts the job, and we get our final page of what the planet has then turned into, kind of like a crime family instead. So yeah, pretty fun stuff. Fantastic book. So the Cosmic Book from Ace Comics. I did a search on my comic shop just for this one, and then you can kind of highlight the publisher themselves and look. So one of the other ones that I have is The Face. I think there was 3 issues that Ace Comics put out of that as well. So I'm going to kind of keep my eyes out for anything else Ace. It would have been something if it was Jason Statham. So if you do see this in your kind of journeys, I wouldn't hesitate to pick it up. Like I said, for that one Himes piece especially, but everything else in here is really enjoyable. Let's see. Record and comic hunting go hand in hand. Absolutely. At the time, though, it was all about records for me, and I found some phenomenal records on that trip in Montreal. Really incredible stuff. It's great. And Pat Boyette is a favorite of mine. Yeah, I wish I knew more about him. Anything else that you'd recommend, AFPC? All visuals. So there we go. I think. Oh, here we go. Ace's Spencer Spook has a couple of Boyette penned issues. Robin Red is an Ace book. Okay, cool. To check those out. It's just amazing how many little publishers there were back then. Because I think, what did I say this afternoon? I think I said this was 86, right? Yeah, December 86. So, I mean, right in that kind of prime time for this kind of black and white explosion and stuff, and kind of the peak of that, right? So, it's super fun. It's just great to hit those bins and see what else is there. And I mean, it's one of those that I remember seeing the face cover. It appealed to me. It was weird. It was very strange looking. But sometimes you just can't tell, right? This was one of those rare occasions where that cover was pretty standout, flipping through the bin of very average looking stuff. This jumps out at you for sure. So that was great to find that one. Um, I'm still reading Modesty Blaze. I'm about 60 pages, 60 plus pages into it. And I'm absolutely loving this. So again, another shout out to Gore Vidal for mentioning that I should get into this a number of times through our conversations over the years or so. This is really great. The second chapter introducing kind of Willie and Modesty and kind of what their day-to-day operations are while they're training, and kind of just how they get along and what their kind of relationship is like. Really good stuff. Really good stuff. So I'm looking forward to continuing on with this one. The one that didn't work for me this week was I picked up this 6-issue miniseries of Human Target. This was around the time that the show was now a hit TV series on Fox. I wonder how much of a hit it was. So this one has 2 stories in it, one that runs through the 6 issues, and then this kind of quick backup story. The backup story was even worse than the first part of this. It was just such a mess. Really difficult to follow. There was a couple of transitions from the beginning of the issue to kind of the end of that first story that just I had to go back to the beginning to figure out what the hell I was reading. Really just uninteresting characters. It really just didn't do anything for me. I'm going to continue on with the 6 issues. I don't know how long it's gonna take me to get through those 6 issues, but I am going to continue with them, and we'll see how that goes. Because man, oh man, that was a stinker. And then one of the other things that I think I read a couple back to back. Action Comics Weekly. It might be one of those books that maybe I go to actually reading one issue a week or one issue every couple of weeks, because reading kind of two back to back or a very close succession with each other didn't work for me at all. It was a little too much. The Black Hawk story in here by Chaikin is so strange. It really it just borders on really poor taste, and it kind of really stands out like a sore thumb in this Action Comics weekly package when you're getting things like Wild Dog, Secret Six, Deadman, Superman, Green Lantern, and then you kind of have this Black Hawk shoehorned in right at the end. So I think I may take this. Again, I still really want to finish off with this because I'm loving the Deadman story. The Secret Six story is pretty fun as well too, but I think it's one of those things where I need to just space it out a little bit more. It might be a little too much to read a couple issues back to back. So yeah, the Wild Dog story in this is pretty entertaining so far as well too. But I think I absolutely need a bit of a break. There's only so much of this that I can kind of stomach at one time. And I guess the final thing that we talked about this afternoon too was the new Daredevil Woman Without Fear series that's out. So issue number 1 came out by Chip Zdarsky. I'll say this: I'm hesitant to follow another series that's going to talk about Elektra and her past, and kind of her place with and her relationship with Matt Murdock, and her kind of taking um, up the mantle. I just feel like that kind of territory might be a little played out. But that said, though, I think this costume design is badass. I do have a soft spot for Daredevil, period. I didn't know that it was Elektra because I hadn't read the Zdarsky run. I gave up pretty quickly. I think I read the first 2 volumes. I do want to revisit it and go to the library and try to take out some of the books just to maybe try to catch up, to catch up on what the story is. So, I mean, there were some promising moments in here for sure. I'm still not a huge fan of Zdarsky's writing. I do feel like they're treading some territory that we've tread a lot of times before, but hey, it's comics, it's superhero stuff. That's not so much of a surprise, really. I mean, what do you expect? That's kind of what their main drive is. But there was enough here to kind of keep my interest. And then I got to the end, and that interest kind of waned when they introduce another character that's going to play a part in this storyline. And I don't want to spoil it or anything. And maybe it was kind of talked about in the Daredevil series before this. Maybe it was kind of projected, but it took me by surprise, and it seemed to be really out of place. But what do I know, right? So I'm going to give it another couple of issues for sure. Like I said, great design. You can't really go wrong with at least trying out some Daredevil, at least for me anyway. So I'm willing to give it a shot. So that was that. Oh, here we go. So Robin Red and the Lutins is by Boyette. Random Charlton Ghost theme books too. Yeah, okay. That's good to know. I should actually go through because I've got some haunted library of Baron Werewolf or something like that, isn't it? I have some Charlton ghost story books, so I'll have a look and see if there's any Boyette in there. You and GV need to do a live reading discussion, LOL. Yeah, I mean, honestly, as we talked about this afternoon too, I'd love to have anybody on. If anybody's ever interested in coming on, that includes all of you here. You're always more than welcome. I think it would be fantastic to talk to all of you face to face, to be honest. But absolutely, I mean, I've been a fan of Gore Vidal's stuff for a long time. He's got a really great perspective on stuff. He's a hell of a nice guy. So I'd love to get him on with us sometime. Yeah, base is it is it basically bad, the Action Comics Weekly? I wouldn't say that it's bad. I just think that it was a little too much to read a couple back to back. I think it's one of those things, and I also think, like, because of a chunk of the other reading that I did this week that was just very, it was just kind of so-so. I think that had an impact on it as well too. I might have been a little more critical of it than I was in the past because ultimately they are pretty fun stories. I just think maybe partially my mindset with some of the reading this week. Has anyone ever been killed over a comic? I've heard of death threats, but nothing beyond. Well, I mean, Charlie Hebdo didn't. I mean, I guess that's not a comic. That was more like a comic strip. There was people killed there, right? But I don't know if anything based on comic books, though. Yeah, Collins and Beatty are a great duo, and they're a phenomenal duo. And again, it was another one that I'm so glad that I finally took the chance on Mystery and jumped into that stuff because what a goddamn series that is, man. Okay, I think Boyette did Peter Cannon Thunderbolt, the philosophical superhero. Yeah, pardon me, I've seen some of those around. Okay, Ghost Manor. Right, I have some Ghost Manor as well. There have been a couple of dealers murdered over the years. Crazy, man. So I think that is officially it. Looking around. Yeah, there's nothing else. So thanks very much, as always, for hanging out tonight. It's good to see you all. And like I said, for real, take us up on this offer. We'd love to have get into more rotating guests as well for us for our weekly kind of chats. And so the it really is open to all of you. Please get in touch if you're on Twitter. You could always do it with, we'd said this to people in the past, and I know some other people have hung out on other people's channels, and I've seen people do it where they just have their screen off, even just like this, right? And then having an image up there instead, so you can just hear the voice and you don't see them. You know, honestly, man, we'd be willing to do that. Or if you wanted to go Gore Vidal route and just have a camera set up looking at the books you're going to be talking about, we'd be all about that. And mask your voice. Yeah, mask your voice. Well, you could do that as well. Pretend like we're doing a 60 minutes interview. Okay, everybody. Thanks very much. Yeah, run it through a distortion pedal there, AFPC. A distortion and a delay pedal. Just do that. Exactly. Vocal processing, 100%. All right, everybody. Thanks very much. And we'll hopefully see you next weekend.